We are back with the FloTrack podcast. I'm Kevin, joined by Gordon, who is riding high after a very controversial win by his Philadelphia 76ers last night. And he's joining us from vacation. Gordon, how are you?
Doing good. In Maryland right now, Silver Spring, Maryland. And yeah, basketball, man, it's back. We had a great duel between the Sixers and the Spurs, your team versus my team, And yeah, 1 point win or 2 point win, I don't even remember. It was a blur. It was a great moment. What are your thoughts of the NBA bubble so far? Your
It was
team,
an
man, they're 2-1. They might make the NBA playoffs.
should be 3-0. The victory was small enough to where a horrible call that should have been made in the previous quarter would have changed the result. Also, there was a foul on that last play when Pirtle went to the rim and Embiid just hacked him. I'm more interested than I thought I would be. And it's not just because, well, it partly is because my team was playing pretty well and all the games they've been in have been close and it's been interesting. But the NBA has done a really good job of mimicking the atmosphere and making it look like they're not playing in an empty gym. And the players, I don't know how the players feel about it because they're obviously not playing in front of 20,000 people. But when you're watching, the noise isn't the same, but like there's an intimacy still about it. So you feel as if you're allowed to get excited too, even though they're playing in front of themselves, basically.
Yeah. And it feels like they picked up where they left off. It doesn't feel like different. It doesn't feel like an asterisk. It's, a lot of people were like, oh, there's no home or away. It's going to feel weird and the winner is not going to be the real winner. But in this
Yep.
situation, it feels like they're legit games, legit losers, legit winners. And it's giving me something to watch every day until September, until football comes, and hopefully cross country season, like we've been talking about.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know. August 4th is today. That's when we're recording this. There is an NCAA Board of Governors meeting again. I know 2 weeks ago or a week ago, I teased that today's D Day and they kicked the can, they punted. But again, they punted to today. So August 4th is another D Day. What will happen? There's been rumors about now that the Power Five conferences are starting to get more involved. They've all released their football schedules. They've all
Mm-hmm.
like packed up. Big 12 is like we're doing 9+1, 9 conference game plus one non-conference. SEC announced their conference schedule. ACC, they're all these Power Fives. They all announced their football plans, and that it seems like conference football, Power Five conference football, wants to happen, and they're not going to let the NCAA mess with it. And so today, August 4th, could be a day when the NCAA says we're canceling championships. So now there's rumors that Power Five will be like, oh, really? You're going to cancel NCAA championships? All right, let's have our Power Five Olympic sports championships. So, meaning we're going to have cross country with only Pac 12, ACC, Big 10, SEC, and Big 12, which would be wild because in some sports, it makes like, I'm sure the champion would still be a true champion. But in cross country, or cross country championships without BYU, without NAU, without New Mexico, what's the point? All right, it would be a joke.
You brought up the word asterisk before when we were talking about the NBA. This would be a very, very large asterisk if they did go ahead with this. It would not be a national championship for cross country. You're right. Maybe for other sports where all of the top teams, all the contenders are in those Power Five conferences, but we know that's not the case in cross country. And we know from history that we can sort out, for the most part, the top teams. Does that mean the non-Power Five team was going to necessarily win this year? Was NAU a lock? Was BYU a lock? Were the New Mexico women a lock? No, absolutely not. But you can't have a championship without those teams in it and call it a national championship. Portland, another team, right? That would be
Yeah.
in the mix in an NCAA cross country championship. I don't think they would do this I mean, they might do it in cross country, but if anybody has the audacity to call it a national championship, they would be mistaken. They would be mistaken because it would not be given the composition of the true power teams in NCAA cross country, which obviously includes the teams that you mentioned, NAU, BYU, and New Mexico.
And what Power 5 could do is, in order to try to erase that asterisk as much as possible, they'll be like, hey, we're doing our own thing. NAU, if you want to run, you can come. We'll put a spot on the starting line for you. And they just like give
Right.
invitations to teams that want to participate, where they're like basically trying to create their own NCAA. Like, hey, all those Big Sky teams, hey, you want to come in? Hey, Mountain West, join Air Force. We love you. Army, Navy, come on in. And I think they
Boise
will try to
State,
like
pull up a
basically create
chair.
their own conference, create their own governing body. And it's crazy that a pandemic is because everyone's been clamoring for that, right? NCAA versus the Power 5 and this, that, revenue share, all that, blah, blah, blah. And it's going to take a pandemic for everything to come crashing, where the NCAA will do one move and then Power 5 will turn one way and the other one will turn the other way. And then all of a sudden, we got what these Power 5 conferences have always dreamed. They've dreamed of control, and now they're going to get it.
Yeah.
Again, we don't know. But I did get a text from like a non-Power 5
phone,
good
folks.
cross-country athlete who's concerned. He's like, wait a minute. Are we is it really a thing that there's going to be a Power 5 only conference? And I said, that's what the rumor is, but we don't know. So I'm sure. Imagine if you're a cross country runner right now, right? It's August 4th. Like, this is when the last week of summer training is coming together. You're getting ready for preseason camp. There's a lot of like excitement. Like, oh, all right, we're here. All right, we're now in the month of August. We're like, what? August, September, October. We're like within 4 months from the biggest day of our lives. And they don't even know if they're going to have that day. It's just like, how do you grind a long run in the brutal heat of Texas or in the brutal heat of Florida, not knowing if you're going to have to be able to use that base in November, or you're just like, what are we doing this for? Because we're not going to be running again until 2021. Why? Like, it's just got to be mentally draining for these college athletes to not know if they need to be getting their bodies ready for a peak in November or not.
You advocated a couple weeks ago mass redshirting, and I did see the Arizona State swim team. They're redshirting everybody this year. So I don't know if any cross country or track coaches have listened to your advice on the podcast, and I don't know if the Arizona State swim program listens, but they're at the very least they're taking your advice, because at this point, given what you said, given the uncertainty over whether or not there's going to be a championship, what the championship would look like, the ability to finish the entire season, let alone start it on any sort of normal time schedule, is impossible to prepare. And cross country, what, you have 4 opportunities to run really in big time races throughout the season. Would you want to use one of those opportunities this year? No, you could see a very strong argument for, hey, this all just is happening way too late. I need more time to prepare and plan. Let's just sit it out this year. And if you're a coach, the same thing, which is probably what the Arizona State swim coach was thinking. Why do this when there's so much uncertainty?
Yeah, I've talked to some cross country coaches who've actually said, yeah, redshirting might be a good idea, because like it's a big risk. It's like a bigger risk to use a season of your eligibility just for it to turn into an asterisk race, or just for it to turn into a not to see what happened at NCAA indoors, right? I guarantee you so many of those athletes who are at NCAA indoors would not have raced at all if they knew when March came they weren't going to be able to have a championship. They'd be like, all right, we're not going to BU. We're not going to Iowa State. We're not going to UW. We're just not going to run if there's no carrot at the end of if there's no bag of gold at the end of the rainbow. Why would we even open the box of Lucky Charms? We just stay home and keep eating Cheerios. I don't know.
Oh man. Anyway, when you bring up just a Power 5 only championship, that to me is almost like turning NCAA cross country into it's the Commonwealth Games, or if it's a European Championships, it's the non-championship year. It's something to do. It's a meet to have. And if you win it, okay, you can talk about it, but everybody is going to say, yeah, but you're missing a whole bunch of people. Right. You won the Diamond League in 2014 when a bunch of people were taking the season off. Or, yeah, you were the Continental Games champion. You were the European
off-year USA
champion.
champion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what it rings of to me. And it's better than having no meets. I think everybody would agree on that. But we in this sport enjoy the certainty of saying this team was the champion, this individual was a champion that year. They all showed up, they all knew the rules, they ran the race, and this was the result. That's what fuels the sport, and you would not get that if you're excluding the Power 5 teams. I brought up here's a quote from Arizona Central newspaper from Bob Bowman, the Arizona State swim coach. He said, I started thinking about how we can do that, and this is what I came up with. We lost an NCAA championship, and they didn't get another season. In my mind, it is unacceptable to risk having that happen again. That just would not work for these kids. We spent so long recruiting. With all the uncertainty going on around everything, it just makes sense to me that we would give everyone a year to rebuild, get into a training mode, focus on preparing for next summer's Olympic trials, and carry that into next season. When I read that quote, you could basically sub out track for swimming. It's a sport that's fueled by, right? It's a sport that's fueled by the Olympics. It's a sport that requires long-term planning. It's not a 3-season or 2-season sport like cross country and track are. So there's different opportunities to compete, but there's a lot of people at the collegiate level who have Olympic aspirations and they map all this stuff out, and you're not. I just feel like team sports people get used to being a little more flexible because you're always depending on other people. That's part of it. So there's this uncertainty. Whereas individual, it's so one track. I've mapped out the year of my life for the next 6 months of my training, and this is how it goes. So it becomes especially difficult for individual sports. So I could see 100% where coaches are coming from if they decide to just pull people out.
Yeah. Man, I just want an answer. I just want a decision to be made. I mean,
the Board of Governors, man. What are we doing, Board of Governors?
man.
Govern something.
How do they get elected, man? You got to vote for them? How do you become a Board of Governor?
Well, so also in NCAA, like they have all these committees and they talk and they have meetings, and then you ask them, okay, so this is final? Oh no, it has to go to the other committee. Okay. This is just a recommendation to a recommendation to a recommendation. There's just very few, there's a lot of meetings and very few decisions. That's what I've gathered from my time around the NCAA.
Yeah. It's
And
just
track.
like a giant...
Track as a whole, right? You can say that about governing bodies in track too. This committee has recommended this. Okay, great.
Yeah. Yeah, like when the world rankings came out, they're like, oh, we'll take it back. Oh, what? Okay, we'll give if you're a gold label race, you're top 3 in a gold label race, you get to go. And then like USATF is like, give us a gold label. And they're like, no. And they're like, okay, we'll give it to you. And it didn't matter. No one wants to talk about that. But that whole shit show of like, oh, the audacity of being a marathon world ranking being too hard for people to get, or the Olympic standard. We need to give the USA trials special treatment. Such an American for us to be like, ask for special treatment. And guess what? They didn't need it. They didn't need that gold label. No, they didn't need the gold label of the US trials for them to go on the hot, hilly Atlanta course. Guess what? They ran fast enough. I'm like, yeah, but it could have been Boston Marathon where it's raining, and like, well, sorry.
I'm glad you're able to turn this into
back to
one of your hobby
January of everyone writing like 1,000-word articles about how this ruins the sanctity of the sport by having too hard of Olympic trials qualifying times. It's just like, come on. Anyway.
It would have been interesting though if they did hold the line and people didn't get the standard. And I don't know if there was room in there to chase, because they would have, if they did, they would have had the longest chasing period in history, but then it would have been interrupted. But now it's restarting, and they're talking about with London Marathon, if that goes off, the people will be able to get unlit qualifiers, and you would have had everybody in that top 3 from USA's who didn't have the qualifying time probably going to London to try to get in the London Marathon, or get in something
made it entertaining.
It'd have been in the winter. It'd have been something. It'd have been confusing for sure. Did you? Any of these results from the weekend stand out? We got them. Excuse me, scrolling on the bottom here for those of you watching on the video. For those of you listening, we could just read them to you.
Yeah. Let's start Donavan Brazier. He runs 143.
Yeah,
Chilling. What are your thoughts on that?
it looked
Makes sense.
easy. I think. Yeah, I mean, I think it bodes well for Monaco when he gets into a race with other people who can at least be near him for maybe 550, because the Rabbit stepped off at 400, and that's a long way to go by yourself without really anybody on your heels at all. I think there's a big difference between getting some help only to 400 and then getting somebody who can take you to 500, or having someone breathing down your neck on that backstretch. But this is a guy who ran 335 and closed in 52. 143 is expected. It's just weird to see him do it in such a low key venue. Like, that's a fast
Yeah.
time to run in his.
Well, I think Donovan.
Well, he run.
I think Donovan has kind of changed the spectrum of the range of an 800-meter athlete, of like in shape, good race, great race, right? So I think a lot of times the best US 800-meter runners, a in shape race is a 146. No, it's like a 145 high is a in shape race. A good race is 144, like you'll run that at a US trials, and then a great race is 143, right? Now he is like basically shifting that 2 seconds, where like an in shape race is 143, a good race is 143 low, 142 high, and then a great race is American record pace, which I think is just like kind of wild. He's basically shifted it by 2 seconds, because we used to look at like 145 debuts as like, okay, that you're one of the best in the world, or you're one of the best in US. You debut with a 145. And now he's like, no, if you want to debut, you got to debut 2 seconds faster to compete with me.
Yeah.
Like, do you think
Yeah.
there's no one else really in that range in America? I mean, do you think a Clayton Murphy or Isaiah Harris can challenge that? Like, are they is
No.
like, will Donovan? When's the next time Donovan's going to lose a race to an American in the 800? Like,
At his current form, it's going to be a while, because we talked about this before. It's just there doesn't seem to be any end to his talent right here. I mean, he's making these things look so easy. And I want to offer one caveat here. Yes, this is his 800-meter debut, but it happened at the end of July, so that's a little different versus him doing it in May. But yeah, he's at the point where he's entered in that race. We find out he's entered in that race, and we're thinking, okay, he could potentially break the American record in a race that we know nothing else about, right? We don't even know where it is. We don't know the location. We don't know the rabbits. We don't know the competition. And none of that matters, because Brazier's been so good that the only thing that really is of consequence is him. Is he in shape, and is he ready to go? And he very clearly is that. I would be surprised if he loses to an American in 2020 this year. There are not very many meets left, but even in 2021, I think he's on a different level from everybody else, and he's on a different level, Gordon, from everybody else in the world too. It's not just an American thing. I don't think anybody's going to touch him. I went and rewatched before we did that interview with him last week, 2 weeks ago, whenever that was. I went and rewatched his Doha final, and Wesley Vasquez went out and pushed the pace, which helped speed that race along and helped Brazier get that fast time. But to make a move like that with 300 to go, it just was a confident, bold type of move that you make when you know you are better than everybody else and nobody can hang with you. And the fact that he's a 400, 800 guy, but also can run 335 in a tactical race, he just has so many tools in his tool belt right now. I think in Monaco, I'd be shocked if he's not in 142, and I think we could see maybe a 141 high in Monaco if they can get a good pacer.
There's a popular meme that is around the internet that hits the internet, the past few years. I'm not sure when this meme started, but it's a meme where they put up a photo of a male, most likely shirtless, or I don't know, a funny looking male sometimes, but maybe it's a dad bod or a picture of Danny DeVito from Always Sunny. But anyway, the headline says, "This is the ideal male body. You may not like it, but this is what peak performance looks like." And to make that make sense of what I'm talking about here is I really think that Donavan Brazier is the ideal 800-meter talent. Like, this is what peak 800-meter ability looks like. It's like it's a lot of times it's like a 1500-meter coming down to the 800 or a 4 guy coming up to the 800, and I just think Donavan Brazier's mechanical body is like built for running the fastest half miles out there. Like, he's built for fast 800s. Like, he's not. It's just like it's so like it's like putting a lot of people try to put a square peg into a round hole to try to run a fast 800, or a star peg into a square hole to run a fast 1500 or whatever. He is literally putting a triangle peg into a triangle hole when it comes to running the 800. And you just see that when he runs such a smooth 143 by himself in an opener, he runs those smooth 335s. It's just like, damn, man. I shouldn't say it. But before Donavan, the person who was the ideal male body or male peak performance was David Rudisha. And
yeah,
I know it's a lot to put like, hey, you're the next David Rudisha on someone, but man, he is looking more and more like it. He is looking more and more like he's gonna be the Rudisha of the 2020s, and we're in for a wild ride. I think the odds of him breaking the world record in his career have just dropped. Like, dropped as in a good thing, or I don't know, dropping or rising. You know what I mean. But he's very likely
of him breaking the American record. Yeah. I mean, I still think that's still going to take another leap forward, because Rudisha, you're right, was so special. But he is the closest thing to Rudisha, another 4'8" guy who also made it look so easy and so comfortable. With Brazier, how do you beat him though? You look at probably his two most famous races from last year. The World Championship, like I mentioned, goes with 300 to go and stomps everybody. And then that Diamond League final. Do you remember the Diamond League final?
Yes.
When he chased Amos down from way back, that was like the Simmons side of it. He has the Simmons side of things, and he also has the Rudisha side of things to get really aggressive and just control and dominate the race. If you're trying to beat him, I don't know what the best strategy would be if you're an American or anybody in the world right now.
I think there's only two ways to beat him, and both of them are extremely rare to happen. Rare way to beat him, number one, is you pull a Wesley Vasquez and you go out in 47 or 48, but you actually can do it, and you just are better. Like, the only way you can beat him, you run 139, right? You just are like, all right, you're just better. That's the only way you beat him in rare. That seems tough because no one is better. So most likely that way of beating him isn't going to happen, of you just being better than him. So we'll take that out of running like a 140 flat, right? The other way to beat him, and I think also is super rare, is make the race go out in like 55 seconds. Because if you do that, then maybe there's a shooter's chance, right? But the odds of being able to get a race to go out 55 seconds at an Olympic level, international level, it's going to be impossible, right? So, in conclusion, you could argue there is no way to beat him. The only way to beat him is he beats himself. He maybe doesn't feel well that day. He maybe just like has a bum ankle or something. I think the only way he loses is he loses. It's not he gets beat. The only way if you beat Donavan Brazier at his peak performance, you're running like 140. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
Or 141. Yeah.
If he had stayed, his freshman year was 2016. So if he had stayed 5 years in college, like had taken a redshirt year, like many NCAA athletes do, this would have been his senior year in college. And if he had just done 4 straight years, he would have been in his first full year as a pro. And I think early on, he was fast enough to be competitive at the international level, but he had some trouble in championships, and that obscured a bit his talent, right? In 16, he goes out in the first round. 17, he makes it but to Worlds, but doesn't make the final. 18 at World Indoors gets DQ'd, but everybody got DQ'd. But in any one of those moments, if he didn't have he was fast enough even then to create a splash. He wasn't American record
Yeah.
142 fast, but he could have won those World Indoor Championships in 2018. That would not have been a reach for him for where he was. But because of some stupid, I broke into, like, everybody was, he was ready to roll, and it was just some stupid fluke thing that got him out of that race. So I think we're finally seeing now what you're saying with he's perfectly suited for this event, combined with he has the experience to not let the rounds or the championships or anything else get in his way.
I honestly think his 2016 trials blunder, the 2017 Worlds getting knocked out in the second or first round, and the 2018 DQ, those three things, because I always remember we were interviewing him after the 2018 DQ. You could see, like, he was like, all right, first time I messed up in 2016, whatever. I was a rookie. I can forgive myself because it happens, right? Who cares? I was a freshman in college. It's not that big of a deal, right?
Yeah.
And then 2017, he thought he had it figured out because I think he won USAs in 2017. And he thought all right, I had my mulligan. I messed up. I figured it out. But then he messed up again, right? So now he's like, he's a young kid at that time. He's like 18. He's like 19 or 20. He's thinking about it. He's like, man. And then, when he messes up, everyone's going to make it a bigger deal because people have a lot more expectation on him because he's a young talent. So it might start getting to him. He's like, man, can I just not handle big moments? And then that third time when he thought he was the favorite at World Indoors and he messed up a third time. Now I could argue that was a bullshit mess up because everyone got DQ'd. That probably was like the needle that broke the camel's back, or straw. I don't know. I'm really
straw.
bad at
It's
my
a straw.
analogies.
Yeah, close
straw
though.
that broke the camel's back. Because that's like,
you were
gotta be kidding
50%
me.
there.
Like, the first time I thought it was just a rookie mistake. The second time it was just like, all right, tough love. Third time you're like, yeah, what? This can't happen, right? And I think those three instances all combined just built up so much like character in him of understanding that like nothing is given to you. You can be the greatest, but it doesn't mean you're going to win. And it made him just work harder. And like, I think it made him appreciate success better because it wasn't just like handed to him. And I think if he didn't have those three moments from 16, 17, 18, he doesn't have his 19 moment and his now 20 moment of being just the best in the world during a pandemic. So it's like, it's kind of weird. In the moment, you think it sucks, right? In the moment, you're like, damn, everyone's like shitting on me on the internet because I didn't run well and I'm young and I'm, it gets to you and you're like thinking like, why am I doing this if it's like so much pressure and criticism and it happens over and over again. It never ends. 16, 17, 18. But now it's ended, right? There's no more criticism of him because he has shown that he is the best and he will continue to be the best. And I think that just, Michael Jordan, right? He didn't win his first finals until year 7 or 8, right?
Yeah.
He got beat up by the Pistons like multiple times. That's what Donavan Brazier did. He got beat up by bullshit DQs, kind of tactical mishaps. That was his Pistons era.
Yeah.
But now he's in prime 90s Jordan era where he is going to go on a 6-year run. That's what Donovan is.
Well,
that's a good analogy.
I'm looking.
Boom.
Yeah. It took a while. Well, and you did an NBA one, so you went out of character there. In 2017, wins USA's in 2017, then runs 143.9 and gets second in the Diamond League in London, then gets third in the Rabat Diamond League, and then gets 7th in the semifinal, running 146 in London and gets bounced. That had to have been extremely disappointing. 2019, though, there were clear signs. Obviously, based on what he did as a freshman at A&M, you knew he could be good. But I don't know if you remember this. The indoor season in 2019, he ran those 600s, and he ran, I guess this was a USA's or whatever. He ran that 113 600. He also ran the 144 American record indoors in the 800. So he's good in 600. Obviously, he's running fast 600. Runs a fast indoor 800, and then goes to the Sunset Tour and runs that ridiculously easy 337. So you're like, okay, he can run under distance and he can run over distance. this can only go one way. It's going to end with him being really good in between, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, anybody who listened to the podcast with him knows he doesn't lack for confidence and ability, and I think I think he's got a good mentality about where he's positioned right now. Like he's still hungry. I mean, he even said, because when we asked him, "Hey, you gonna do the 15.8?" He's like, "I haven't really done anything in the sport yet. I haven't won anything in the Olympics. You know, he's run a world championship medal, and he has the American record, but he feels like he hasn't done anything. But he's also confident enough to say, I mean, I'm not going to completely discount getting David Rudisha's record. So he's got both of those things going on in his head. So yeah, I think it's going to be a while before he loses to an American, and even on the world stage, I would be surprised if you're right. The 800 was just made for Donavan Brazier.
I mean, he won't do this. I won't do it, but basically the 1500 is going to be his backup, right? Because it's after the 8 at the trials. So he'll run the 8, and if something happens, he has the 1500, right? But nothing's going to happen in the 8. He's going to win the 8. So, but what I want him to do is still just run the 1500 for fun, and know that, hey, guys, don't worry, I'm not taking anyone's spot. I just want to be in it. I just want to see what happens when I race Centro in his prime and Engels in his prime and how I fare, you know? And it'll be kind of like it's like a weird, there's like no pressure, right? Because he could run the 1500 and just like have a bad race. It's like, oh, whatever. I'm still the greatest 800 meter runner in the world right now. Whatever. But if he runs it and he does well, then everyone's like, oh man, there's nothing but positive that can come from it, you know?
Well, I mean, Nike obviously likes people to double. And he mentioned that Pete Julian keeps pushing him to do longer races. I would see it. I mean, do you see anybody beating him in the 1500 right now in the U.S.?
I mean, I think that Josh Thompson looks good. I think that Centro will still. I'm as much as the 335 is like, whoa, and he ran the 335 super easy with the hard kick in the last 300. Like, I think a lot of our best 1500 meter runners don't run fast times, but they're actually good. Like we don't normalize 335s. We normalize 337s. And we just like, all right, we're good. Okay. We run 337 and we don't try to run faster. And I think that a lot of the Ben Blankenship's, the, Thompsons and all those of the world, Robbie Andrews, if he ever gets back, they're not built to run 331s, 332s. They're built to run a 50-second last lap on a slow pace, so.
Yeah. After 2 other rounds in a U.S. championship. That's what they're meant to do. Yeah. No, I get it. It's just with him, he opens up so many possibilities. You could say to him, Donavan, stick on Centro's shoulder the entire time, and then with 100 meters to go, run past him. Okay, got it. Let's try to, and it might work. It might work.
Yeah, it would.
He kind of removes a lot of the normal obstacles to succeeding in the 1500 because he's so good. This is a guy who's running really well in the 1500 right now, not an American though, but Josh Kerr, man, power move there at the big friendly 3 to run a 334, and he went from way out, Gordon. I didn't know if he was going to be able to hold off Engels and the rest of the crew, but he was. Kerr's a guy where if Timothy Chariot wasn't around right now, who's the Brazier of his event in a way, maybe a little bit above where Brazier's at because he's been around, but just he's in a tier by himself. He's the big favorite. You could see Kerr being in the mix for gold. I think he's that good.
Really?
Without Chariot, yes. Chariot is obviously occupying that top spot.
What about Ingebrigtsen?
Yeah, I think Kerr's in that next group, right? And we saw it last year in the 1500 meter final in Doha. He was right in the mix. Chariot's just upside is so great that I think in a tactical final, you could convince me that Kerr could get by little Ingebrigtsen.
Yeah. Okay. You're a big Kerr fan.
Medal at the very least. Well, you guys did the podcast with him. I didn't. I was a little jealous, so I just felt like I needed to say. Okay. No, I think it's. I mean, when you run through, you're talking about how we're normalizing 337s and stuff. This dude ran a 334 with the last 600 completely by himself. Right, that
Yeah.
race was weird. He just took
I
it
mean,
on
Josh
and
Kerr,
said, "This is not fast enough
Kerr
for me."
has done that runs like this a lot. I mean, he was like that in college. I felt like he would run like just
Yeah,
all out, like when he ran at Brian Clay, when he ran his 335. I think he's just it's the way he's not a. I mean, European guys, I mean, he's a little bit of a mix between having the NCAA system of learning how to win
yeah,
a mile race in 4:10, but then also a lot of these British guys, it's baked in them to be like, you run fast. Like, you don't train to win a 340 race, you train to run a 335 race. So,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, I think it makes sense that he has the ability to run fast. I mean, 334 solo, it's good.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know what else
if
to
I
say.
told you this was the podium, if I told you this was the podium in Tokyo, would you be surprised? Chariot gold, Ingebrigtsen silver, Kerr bronze. Would that surprise you?
No, no, I wouldn't. Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense.
I wanted to talk about
I want
some comeback athletes here.
okay,
Comeback athletes, because you mentioned Shannon Rowbury before when she ran that
yeah,
3,000. She dropped a mostly solo 403 to win the 1500, and then in the 800, the race was won by Chanel Price, who ran 201. Nia Akins was in front of her, but then Brenda Martinez ran 202.81, which is a good sign for her. We haven't seen her. She only raced once or twice in 2019, so she's back out there. Don't know if she'll do the 800 or the 1500 going in at the Olympic year, but Rowbury and Martinez, two people who've made a bunch of teams, maybe benefiting from having another year to get ready.
yeah. Rowberry's 403. I know we did a whole podcast of like, hey, what does this 3K translate to? Rowbury more and more is becoming more and more of a legit top 3 threat in the 5K, in my opinion. 403 is speed. That is speed that a lot of these other 5K athletes don't have. I mean, obviously Christian Schweizer has it, but after Schweizer, you know, Jenny Simpson. I mean, Jenny Simpson has it too, but Jenny Simpson would do 15. So no, I guess who's the next best 5K? I mean, Cranny? No. Who's the next best 5K after Schweizer?
Frazier,
Frazier's
Purrier, if
hurt.
she runs it.
Purrier.
Frazier,
Okay,
yeah,
Purrier. So Purrier is the one. So Purrier and Schweizer are kind of a different level, but after those two, I mean, it's going to be a
yeah,
bunch of 15 flat, sub 15 women who are all in the 403 to 406 speed range, 402 to 406 speed range.
yeah.
And Shannon will be able to hold her own against that. She'll be able to hold her own against a Cranny, against Rachel Schneider, against a Danny Jones, for sure.
If you make just a list for the women's 15 to 5 in the US, which I'm very excited about for next year, that's going to be, and even the women's 10, but if you just take a list of women who have broken either 4 or women who have broken 15 or who have just made a team before, it's a long list, which means there's going to be some people that are excluded that ordinarily would have been on the team, right? So like you start in the 1500, you obviously have Houlihan, you have Simpson, you have Hiltz, you have someone
Kate
like,
Grace.
well, and then you go Kate Grace. You go to the 5,000, you throw that whole Bowerman contingent in there with Frazier, Cranny, Schweizer that are in there, right? And then people like Rowbury, Martinez, Purrier, who ran that really fast indoor time, and Schneider, who made the team last year. There's going to be very good people who are left off the team next year in those events, and people who are going to be really impacted by whatever Shelby Houlihan decides to do, whether or not she runs the 15, the 5, or neither, or the 10K, or maybe they'll run the 4 by 1500 meter relay at the Olympics next year. We'll get that event in there. Just
So
kidding.
can I go on
I
a
didn't.
mini? What did you think about the Bowerman 4 by 1500 American? I'm using air quotes for those not watching. American record. I mean, a lot of these
Well, the women got the
distance
world
programs
record.
do this. They got even so world record. Like, it's just like these world records, I know it's a real world record, and I'm not taking anything away from the real world record, but it's in my opinion, a 4x1500 world record is equivalent of saying you have a world lead on January 2nd in an event.
Mm-hmm.
Because no one is doing 4x1500s. So you are the best among like 20 attempts in world history. And when I looked at the average was what, 406 average? 40 was it 406 average for the women?
Yeah, there was only help pacing on the first leg because they obviously dropped out because they didn't have another team. I think Frericks let out quickly. Everybody else was running by themselves. Yes, it was well above 4 minutes.
But 406 average, right? So 406 is like I think that's the Olympic standard, right? 406.
Well, we saw when Houlihan rabbited that one week, we saw her just completely jog, like just that sort of time. That's not hard for her at all.
Hear me out. 406 is the Olympic standard, right? I think it is.
I thought it was 405, but you could be right. Okay, sure.
405. Okay, it's around that area. So say they've averaged the Olympic standard, and that was considered the world record for their 4x1500. The Olympic standard in the men's 400 is like 45 seconds, right?
Yeah, I see where you're going with this.
Right? So if we saw a 4x4 all run 45 seconds, we'd be like, okay, you're like Baylor. You're Texas A&M.
You got third in the SEC.
You got third at the SEC, right? And it's just because, like, if you actually the best 4x4, they're running a lot faster. They're running 43 seconds, 44 seconds, right? So
because no one runs a 4x15. What's the average for the men?
So,
do the average for the men. I want to hear.
The average for the men was probably even worse, right? I don't know. They're probably like 338. I'm guessing.
Yeah. Interesting.
338.
Was it really 338, or are you just making that up?
I don't know. I'm making that up. I think it was 338. I thought the fastest was a 336. That was the fastest. And then the rest of them were like 339. So I said 338. Again, it's great. It's a world record. But like New Jersey, New York Track Club did this with their indoor 4x8s or indoor 4x miles where they're running 410 miles. And it's like, hey, it's a world record. And I'm just like, we get it. It is. But like, it's finding a little fake way of getting records. Like,
I didn't like it from the perspective of, and I don't know,
are annoying. That's all.
Yeah. I'm fine with them going for it if it's like if there's another group in there too, that would make it interesting. Okay, we have, even if it's just one other team, even if you got a Pete Julian group team where I don't even know who they would throw out if they would have enough people. But then it's like, okay, that's kind of cool. It's like a relay meet. Fine, let's go ahead and do it. I didn't like it from the perspective of, and I don't know how many other opportunities they're going to have to race this week or this year, but you have your whole team firing on all cylinders. They're all setting PRs. They can't help but run PRs. And you have very few opportunities to run in this setting. And they use one of them to run a 4x1500. I wanted to see Mohamed take another crack at the 5,000. I wanted to see Shelby run anything, make a debut at the 10,000, see if she can go under 14:20 in the 5K. Try to run a faster 1,500, re-break her American record. Maybe Schweizer jumps in at 10,000. On the men's side, going back, maybe Lopez Lamong. What could he do? The women's American record outdoors in the 3K was ripe for the picking. If they wanted to knock out an American record, Houlihan and Schweizer could have both gone under that. I don't care so much about, is it legitimate, is it not, because we do that all the time with track. I think of it just as you only have a finite amount of racing opportunities, and one of them was used for this.
Yeah, like those 4 women. What's more exciting? Watch them all run 4:05 in, like, what's the word? Continuous, in order, or
Succession.
have them all run in succession, or have them all run at the same time and have one of them run 3:54, or one of them run 3:56, one of them run 4 flat. Like, that would have been more fun to watch, right? Than just watching them run 4:05s. I mean, like, it's just hard to like be like, world record, they ran 4:05. I'm like, okay, that's like, again, it'll be like, it's,
well, It also happened the same night that the big friendly three was going on with Brazier, with Rowbury, with Martinez, with Chanel Price, with Josh Kerr, with all these other stars. And it probably got overshadowed just because if you had to choose between the two, what would you rather watch? You'd obviously rather watch the individual races. You'd rather watch Brazier go for it in the 800 and see what Rowbury can do in the 1500. That's what track fans want to watch. You don't want to see a relay that's never run break a record that nobody knows. Did anybody know what the 4x1500 meter record was before this?
No.
Or who had it?
And you can't even go on the results page and see what their splits were. You see what the 1600 meter split is. You're like, okay, what does that do for me?
Just do a normal conversion, subtract 100. Yeah. No, and then maybe they'll go to Europe, and then they'll run 2 races in Europe, and then if they run 2 races in Europe and they're really fast, then I'll eat my words because they'll say, "Oh yeah, we needed an easy day before we went back at it." But if this is it for the season, I would have liked them to end on giving it one more shot. That'd have been cool. Just empty the barrel.
I mean, I bet you Shelby runs 405s in workouts.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? It's just like we just watched a workout. Basically, is what we watched. What was your thoughts on another? Okay.
No, well, I was just going to say. So the American record in the women's 3,000, right? Do you know what it is?
No, what is
outdoors? So
it's slower than it is indoors, right?
Well, it's 8:25. It's 8:25, right? So if she ran, so basically she would have had to split 412s to get it, right? 412 and then 412 in her 1500s to get 8:25. And so yes, a 405 is a jog for her. I'm sure she does that in a workout.
What are your thoughts on the distance run? What are the thoughts on now the distance runners, Nike runners, getting in on the action of jogging races in order to meet the Nike contract limit? I mean, we thought like, hey, is this only a sprinter thing? Nope, it's the distance thing because what are these times we saw of Matthew Centrowitz running like a mixed gender 600 and running like 3 minutes or something like that? What do you run?
Yeah, no, he ran 3:0 something in the mixed gender 800. I mean, I'll say what I said before for the men or for the sprint meets. I think it's just a great use of everybody's time. I think you got to follow everything to the T, and you can't let facts on the ground. You can't let a global pandemic dissuade you from that.
But the fact that the Olympic champion needs to do that is so stupid.
No,
is there a person at the Nike office being? And obviously, I know the person at the Nike office sees is like, man, we're not going to resign you. We're going to let you go, Matthew Centrowitz, Olympic champion. We don't need you this round of the Olympics. We don't need a defending champion to be wearing our logo. Why? Oh, because you ran 8 races instead of 9. Okay, it's just like, okay, this is stupid.
Central comes into the office. Okay, so your performance review. Thank you for coming and being on time. It is 2020. Now, Matthew, can you tell us what you've done over the past few years? Well, I was the Olympic champion in the 1500 in 2016. Okay. But I really want to know, how many races have you run this year? Well, I haven't run that many because I've been hurt. Really want to get my legs under me for 20. Okay. So Matthew, we're really tight on time. So I'm just going to cut right to the chase. We're going to need you to jog several races on Friday to meet the demands of your contract. Is that okay? Hold on. I have to jog. I do workouts that are pretty fast. Can you just send someone to see me run a workout? No. We need to see you, and there needs to be separate results for this. Can you do that? I guess I can do that. And that's probably how the conversation went.
They can't be separate results. We also need each race that you do, they need to be different meets. So we need to make sure your timer changes the race to not be race 1 and race 2. It needs to be race 1 of meet 1 and then race 1 of meet 2, because they have to be different meets. They can't just be different races.
Yeah.
You see Clayton Murphy.
And he got out of that meeting. Oh, he did?
What did he ran 100. I don't know. Someone on
Right.
Twitter tweeted it. It's like, so it's like, all right, this is all getting ridiculous. You got 800
Yeah,
meter
yeah.
runners out running 800s.
He got on his phone. Central got on his phone as soon as he left the meeting. And he's just like texting, "Did you guys have this meeting too? Is this a joke? Is it April Fool's? Like I have no idea. Like what's going on? This makes absolutely no sense." I want to run through a few emails real quick before we go. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay. Niall writes in, Joe Klecker's making the Olympic team. That's it. Short, sweet. Thoughts?
In what? In what?
Niall does not say. Niall does not say. Just say he's
Well,
making the
his
Olympic
Twitter
team.
handle. So there's news that he now joins On Running, led by Dathan Ritzenhein.
Right.
That is announced. They're starting a group. A bunch of other guys are going to be joining that group as well, and women. So On Running starting to get involved with track and field. We gotta love that. I love that Joe Klecker's Twitter handle is Joe Klecker XC, which is great. It's like Shelbo 800. You know, Shelby's never running an 800. Maybe Joe's getting prepared for that
Shelby's running
2024
800s.
Olympic mixed gender 2.5K relay. Did you see that? They might bring cross country back.
Yeah,
to the
I did see
Olympics.
that.
Yeah. So
What are your thoughts
get ready
on
for that. Stupid. If you're gonna put cross country in the Olympics, just make them run a 10K. Why are we doing this? It's stupid. This whole anything mixed gender is stupid. Like no one wants to watch a mixed gender relay. It's not. We get it. Like men are faster than women. Like, and they run them down. Oh, the strategy. Do you lead off with the women or do you lead off with the men? Let's talk about it. They had a big meeting about the different dynamics. Poland. Wow, Poland really thinking about it. They put the women at the end.
I love.
But Michael Cherry's going to come in and pass the Poland white girl, and it's like this is stupid. Stupid.
It was when Brazier was on the pod, and he's like, "Yeah, you always put the male last." Like he just said it definitively, and then he wins every time. He's been in so many mixed gender, like 2x2x4s or the 4x4. It works every time. People really want to get this in. I just think it's just going to be like it'll be like the mixed gender 4x4 where it's just a diluted group because you're not going to get the best people running it because the best people are going to run the other events. And there's people talking about, we'll put it in the Winter Olympics and have them run on snow. I mean, I don't really care about the sanctity of the Winter Olympics, but that seems like you're really playing fast and loose with the rules. I mean, you could put snow on top of a basketball court and have people play and put that in the Winter Olympics as well, too, I guess.
It's going to be a way for all the it's going to be a way for all the 4th, 5th, and 6th place finishers at the trials to be able to say they're Olympians. That's the whole purpose of it. That's the whole purpose of the mixed gender relay for the 8th best 400 meter runner. Oh, I'm an Olympian now. Okay, you were like getting smoked by the 3rd place 400 meter runner. You're not really an Olympian. That's going to be the same thing. The people who are going to get it are going to be all the non-greats, right? And then Bowerman will be like, hey, let's mess with it and then let's take all the spots. Because what Bowerman does, right? They'll just find a way to take all the spots. But
all right, let's keep it rolling here. Luke from Delaware.
Joe Klecker, do I think he'll make an Olympic team? Joe Klecker? It would have to be in the 5K. I don't think he makes it in 2021. I think he's too young. I think he will be in his best in 2024. So I will have to wait another 4 years before I'm on the Joe Klecker train. He did run a sub 4 at Colorado, I think, yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
He ran like 358.
I saw that.
So
yeah, and Oliver Hoare apparently ran 356 in that same race. Okay, let's go super fast here. Luke from Delaware. I've had it with a confusion in pronunciation between the Mac, and the Mac, M-A-C-K. Mac, M-A-C, pronounce as you've been pronouncing it. Mac, M-A-A-C, Mayak. There's 2 A's. You both get A sounds with this, long and short. So that's the Metro Athletic. Mayak.
Yeah.
Mac, comma, Gordon will be referred to as Gordon Mac RA from now on. I can't believe Gordon was an RA in college. Best floor ever. That's Luke from Delaware.
It was a good floor. Residents enjoyed all the free pizza. I was a good RA. All the people who partied, and I didn't write a single person up in my 2 years. So if you drank on my floor, you got away with it. The only rule was if you're being loud on like a Wednesday night, I'm going to ask you to leave. But if it's like Saturday night, who cares? But if it's a Wednesday, come on, dude. You don't need to be screaming at 2 a.m. doing shots at 2 a.m. on a Wednesday night. That was my only rule. So I would knock on the door and say, I'm coming in 5 minutes. Get rid of the beer. And they did. So it was fun.
And the Mayak. You got to call
and
it the
there's
Mayak
MEAC
from now
too,
on.
right? There's
There.
MEAC. There's the Metro Eastern Atlantic Shore Conference. MEAC. So there's MEAC, MAC,
Whoa.
MAC, and MAC.
There you go. And the whack.
Or we just call it
Here's
the WAC.
Chad. Chad, who says Gordon is my favorite. Big fan of the show. Really enjoy listening in on my runs. Become fairly obvious that there's a lack of news for y'all to cover. So I would like to present you with this bit. I go to a small Division III college called Teal in Western Pennsylvania. Our conference recently postponed our XC season, but we are now trying to put together an interconference fall track season because track and field is considered a low contact sport, whereas XC is considered a medium contact sport. We are hoping to be able to hold small dual and tri meets and a possible conference championship this fall. I have attached a link for the article below, just a small conference with little play in the national picture, but I think it could be an interesting take for the show. And then again, he mentions Gordon's his favorite. A lot of people passionately writing in liking you, which is weird. It makes me think I don't have a good sentiment about what good and bad are, but that's not the first time in my life that's happened.
Or they're all fake emails, and I just have a lot of burner email accounts. I just like pump myself up. That's probably what it really is. No, but I think so. They're trying to pull off what the Power Five is trying to do, create their own little national championship, right?
Yeah, why not? Fall track. Let's do it.
Fall track. I mean, maybe. I mean, if there is no cross country,
spinners may not be ready.
If there is no cross country season, these distance runners are going to be itching to do something, right? They just spend all summer building up base for a fall cross country season. Like now, obviously the pros are going to be like, we're done. But a lot of these high school kids and college kids, they're going to be like, we want to do something. And I can see some social distance track 5Ks going down, right? Do you think that will happen?
Yeah, you only have a limited amount of time to compete at a high level or a reasonably high level, and you're in college. And if you're competing in D3 in college, odds are you're probably not going on to fame and fortune as the next greatest American runner. Obvious exceptions out there, like we've had in the past. But my point being, you want to take advantage of it, and you're not gonna be able to delay adulthood. I mean, delay the real world. So, yeah, this fall, run whatever you can get in, run hard and enjoy it. I think that's what people should do.
Yeah, and I bet some of the best runners will even try to maybe put together a track meet in December, right, where the window opens again to try to run a fast time trial to get Olympic standards. All right, I can see Mike Smith being like, "All right, guys, no cross country season. We're just gonna." I can't do a Mike Smith accent. It's really bad.
Hey, cross country got moved.
So we're gonna do
what is a season anyway?
This is in your mind.
Time is exactly. A season is not about the leaves changing, but about the mentality that you
of the leaves
use.
I hope Mike
I would pay money to hear Mike Smith. I would pay money to hear. No, he's had enough of you. I would pay to hear Mike Smith talk to a leaf. That'd be awesome. You know what he should get on? I don't know. Are college coaches allowed to get on Cameo? Are college coaches allowed to get on Cameo?
Probably not. There's probably some NCAA violation, but that would be great. Have Mike Smith wish you a happy birthday. That would be.
Dude, do that for Lincoln. Like every week, you and I would pool our money and have him talk about random things. Like
we should have Mike Smith do a cameo for his new child. Like, congratulations to your wife. Yeah. Oh, that we should do that. Amazing. Hopefully, Lincoln doesn't listen this far into the podcast. He probably won't, so he'll never know.
No, he's busy. He's gonna be like, he'll be like so backed up on pods after the birth of the child that he won't get to the end of this one. Yeah, there's a lot of people in the track world who it would be awesome if they did a random shout out to Lincoln. I can think of a few.
I know Justin Gatlin has a cameo. You can get Gatlin to say something to you.
That would be. I just think Mike Smith.
Lincoln's a big Gatlin fan.
Lincoln, Lincoln's a fan of everybody. I think. I don't think Lincoln he doesn't hold grudges. He's not like you who has a list in their apartment of people that they refuse to talk to anymore. Lincoln says, that didn't work out. Maybe next time that'll be better. And then he rolls with it. So, all right, we'll leave it there. Full hour today on the pod. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Gordon will be in a hotel tomorrow, but as we mentioned, Lincoln is on paternity leave. So Gordon's all we got. So internet
Or you
connection.
can say Kevin's all we got. Kevin's all we got. Why does that have to be Gordon's
So
all we
I
got?
mentally-
Why can't it be Kevin's all we got?
Well, my internet's going to be stable because I'm going to be in the same spot. But so I had this thought last night. I was like, Gordon's internet's going to fail today because I didn't know where you were. I didn't know you were at a house. And I was like, what do I do? Because we didn't have a pod yesterday. I'm like, we got to have a pod. So I was mentally preparing to do the entire hour by myself. And I was just thinking if that would have been possible. You know, you've listened to sports talk radio before where they have hosts on and stuff, but especially like old school sports talk radio, some of those people would do
3 to 4 hours.
12. Yeah. And they'd have breaks every 7-8 minutes. So I was trying to think of like, man, could I like do a break somehow? I'd like coming up at the top of the hour, we're going to do traffic. I don't know. I was thinking I'd make note cards and stuff about what to say. It'd be very hard. So I don't want to have to do that. So I hope your internet is stable tomorrow. That's all I'm
I
saying.
kind of want you to do that though. So maybe I might pull the plug on my internet on like Thursday to make you do it. That'll be fun.
If you do that, do it on Friday because I'll be so furious that you'll need to come back on Monday to make it up to me. Yeah. All right. Leave it there. FloTrack podcast at gmail.com. Thanks to Alon for producing. Thank you, Gordon, for co-hosting. We will talk to you tomorrow.